Don't mind the rain or the rolling sea. No weary night never worries me, but the hardest time in the sailor's day is to watch the sun as it dies away.
Tom Crean was a very ordinary man, a son of a farmer who ran away from home at the age of 15 to join the Royal Navy, and then served on 3 great expeditions to the Antarctic at the turn of the 20th century. And he's one of the very, very few men who served with both Captain Scott and Shackleton, and he was deeply respected by them both. He was an incredibly powerful man, a man of great resolve, and also a man of irrepressible optimism. And even in the face of great adversity, Tom always seemed to be able to raise a laugh or sing a song or cheer up people. He was a man, a jack of all trades. He could do pretty much anything. And he was very, very loyal character. So people like Scott and Shackleton could not have been able to do what they did in the Antarctic without the contribution of Tom Crean. His first expedition was on Discovery in 1901, and he joined that really by chance because one of Scott's sailors got drunk and attacked an officer and deserted, and so there was a vacancy just as the ship was about to sail into the unknown for 2 years, and Tom volunteered to go. The classic Kerry man, you know, optimistic view of life, and he thought, well, I'll go down there, and he went off and was there for 2 years and was one of the most prodigious men in the sledging harness. He was as tough as old boots. The next expedition was Captain Scott's last, in the one on which he died, and Tom again was a key figure on that, a man of great strength and resolve, and he got to within 150 miles of the South Pole with Scott, and they separated for the last time. And on the return journey, Tom Crean performed what I think is the greatest act of individual heroism in the history of polar exploration. He saves the life of a man called Lieutenant Evans, and Evans was dying of scurvy, and Tom had already walked, if you can imagine, 1,500 miles, which, roughly speaking, from where we're talking today in Annascaul, would get you to Moscow. And the food had run out and Evans was dying, and Tom agreed to walk the last 35 miles on his own without a tent or a sleeping bag and with only a couple of sticks of chocolate and some biscuits. And he did the walk in 18 hours, despite having already walked 1,500 miles. And he saved the man's life. A few months later, he went back out onto the ice again and was one of the men who discovered Captain Scott's dead body in the snow. And the reason that we know Captain Scott reached the South Pole is because Tom Crean found him. So he was a central figure in these expeditions. He'd barely come back from that expedition when he went off with Shackleton on the Endurance expedition, which is the most famous story of survival, again, in the history of exploration. And Tom was a key figure on that, and when the ship was crushed and sunk in the Weddell Sea, Tom would have been a mainstay of Shackleton, and it was said that at times there were only 2 men that Shackleton could truly rely on, and one of them was Tom Crean. They lived on the ice for 2,000 miles of drift, and then sailed a very small open boat across to South Georgia, which is about 800 miles, and then they walked across the mountains of South Georgia to bring rescue to their men. And Tom is a man of great humility, lots of humour, very personal touches. And when they went back to Elephant Island to rescue the 22 castaways who'd been left there, as the boat was being rowed ashore, Tom Crean was at the front of the boat, hurling packets of tobacco at the men because they were all addicted to the ciggies, and Tom knew that, and that's a lovely touch of humanity from a man. And that was the last act of Tom Crean as an explorer. He went into the Navy and served, and Shackleton wanted to take him on a fourth expedition, but he turned that down because he just got married and had a child at this point, and he wrote back to Shackleton and say he couldn't go because I have a long-haired pal now. And he then came back to Annascaul and he opened the pub, the South Pole Inn, and he lived here very peacefully. And this man, who was an intrepid traveller and had spent longer in the ice and snow than either Scott or Shackleton, never travelled again. He never left Annascaul again.
But he came home and fell in love, a local girl he wed. The South Pole Inn he opened to pull black pints instead. A father of 3 daughters, Mary, Kate, Eileen. Though he left this world at 61, his deeds live on, Tom Crean. He ran away to join the Navy when he was just 15. The farmer's son from Annascaul, the tough and brave Tom Crean.